News is heating up about 5G, the ultra-fast wireless technology that has the potential to connect everything from smartphones to self-driving cars to virtual worlds.
The race to 5G is moving forward at full speed.
Is a cell tower going up in your neighborhood? If it's not now, it may soon. Wireless carriers are installing millions of them across the country to enable the new, faster 5G cell phone technology. But tonight, Julie Watts asked the question you're not supposed to ask. Are there legitimate health concerns?
5G can be a tremendous boom to California, but only if it can be put up quickly and easily.
Hayward Assemblymember Bill Quark co-authored legislation that would make it even harder for cities like Piedmont to object to a tower.
You wouldn't have to go through the Planning Commission, through the City Council.
The former NASA scientist says he may resurrect the bill recently vetoed by the governor.
I know scientifically that putting up these cell phone towers is safe.
But the International Association of Firefighters disagrees. They began opposing cell towers on fire stations after firefighters complained of health problems.
These firefighters developed symptoms.
Dr. Gunnar Heuser conducted a pilot study on firefighters at a station with cell towers.
And the symptoms included problem with memory, problem with intermittent confusion, problem with weakness.
Heuser says their brain scans suggest even low-level RF can cause cell damage, and he worries about more vulnerable groups like kids.
So we found abnormal brain function in all of the firefighters we examined.
So, following lobbying by firefighters, Quark and his co-author exempted fire stations from their bill, making them one place cell companies couldn't put a tower.
This is the first piece of legislation that I think anyone's aware of where somebody got an exemption because they were concerned about health. Did they tell you at all about the study?
All I know is that when the firefighters ask, I do what they ask me to do.
Because they're strong lobbyists?
Yes.
So if, say, school teachers and parents had a strong lobby and they asked you to pass something that would prevent these from going up in your schools, would you do that?
If I couldn't get the votes any other way.
Firefighter and cancer survivor Tony Stefani notes,
it's not only firefighters, it's the people that live in the general vicinity of these towers.
Current regulations don't take into account continuous low-level exposure from these small cells 24 hours a day.
More of these studies have to be done.
There are 230 scientists from 41 countries who have apparently reviewed more than 2,000 peer-reviewed studies, and they're calling on the World Health Organization to do more studies. They're not convinced that this is safe.
I think doing more studies is always a good thing.
Do you think that maybe you should consider putting a pause on legislation that speeds up these towers until there's definitive evidence that there is no harm?
We can do a lot of studies, and there are people right now, believe it or not, who are sure the world is flat.
In a statement, the wireless industry says it defers to experts when it comes to cell tower safety and says, according to government agencies, the scientific evidence shows no known health risk. But what about the unknown?
Not just for students, but also for pregnant teachers. Classrooms can have as many as one transmitter for every 10 students. Countries such as France and Israel have responded to these health concerns by passing laws restricting the use of Wi-Fi in schools. Yesterday, this body passed a suite of bills designed to protect Michigan's children. Today, we're proposing to do the exact opposite and put our children at increased risk. We are now discussing the deployment of 5G networks throughout our state. 5G networks operate in the 24 to 90 gigahertz spectrum. This is a much higher frequency than the current 2.4 gigahertz or 5 gigahertz frequencies found in current Wi-Fi networks.
Can I have the noise level reduced in the chamber, please? Thank you.
High-frequency transmissions don't travel well through solid objects, so 5G will likely require one transmitter for every 2 to 10 homes. This is a much higher density than current cell tower distribution, which have already been associated with significant health care risks. This legislation makes matters worse. Under these bills, local units of governments are prohibited from enacting ordinances that will provide safe havens for citizens with sensitivity to high-frequency radio frequency emissions. In the wake of the 1996 Federal Telecom Act, the FCC, not the Center for Disease Control, is responsible for regulating human exposure standards. The FCC has established maximum power density thresholds for radio frequency emissions in the 24 to 90 gigahertz spectrum of 5G networks as 5 milliwatts per square centimeter. This exposure threshold is based upon thermal concerns analogous to microwave cooking, but have yet to be defined on the basis of non-thermal concerns. Ionizing radiation has been proven to disrupt the basic cell functions at well below the thermal thresholds promoted by the FCC. As a result, any concerns about radiation exposure are routinely greeted with the words, "Emissions are well within FCC guidelines." The issue is that these guidelines indicate acceptable radiation levels which are orders of magnitude above what has been demonstrated as safe when non-thermal effects are considered. The FCC guidelines are clearly insufficient. Now, many of us are rightly concerned about the hazards of cigarettes, lead levels, PFAS levels, and other harmful substances in our environment, but I regret to inform you that we need to add electromagnetic radiation from wireless technology to this list. In light of the policy initiatives before our body and our representatives in D.C. that would put our current wireless infrastructure on steroids, it is critically important that we evaluate the non-thermal health impacts of this technology before we invest billions of dollars on these systems. Article 4, Section 51 of the Michigan Constitution states that the public health and general welfare of the people of the state are hereby declared to be matters of primary public concern. The legislature shall pass suitable laws for protection and promotion of public health. Despite the convenience and the enormous economic growth potential associated with the Internet of Things, our primary concern as legislators is not convenience nor economic growth. As much as I love technology, per our Michigan Constitution, the public health and general welfare of the people of the state are supposed to be our primary concern. In this light, we need to proceed with caution before we fully immerse our citizens in the Internet of Things. I urge my colleagues to vote no on Senate Bills 637 and 894, and I'd like my remarks added to the journal, please.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for having this hearing. We've heard from a lot of witnesses from you today and others previously about the very important potential of 5G technology. It promises to bring us a new era of connectivity with internet speeds as much as 5 times faster than what we have today with much lower latency, and that's all a good thing. But 5G, as you well know, also uses higher frequency waves that don't travel as far and will rely on a network of hundreds of thousands, potentially millions of small cell sites. And the question then is, are there any health implications, any public safety implications to those additional sites that are likely to be located close to homes, schools, workplaces, and closer to the ground? Correct?
Correct, Senator. Yes.
So in December of 2018, I sent a letter to FCC Commissioner Carr asking him to cite for me recent scientific studies demonstrating the safety of this technology. What research has been done, where has it been published and compiled? He has essentially failed to do so and just echoed the general statements of the FDA, which shares regulatory responsibility for cell phones with the FCC. If you go to the FDA website, pretty unsatisfactory. There basically is a cursory and superficial citation to existing scientific data saying, quote, the FDA has urged the cell phone industry to take a number of steps, including support additional research on possible biological effects of radio frequency fields for the type of signal emitted by cell phones. I believe that Americans deserve to know what the health effects are, not to prejudge what scientific studies may show, and they deserve also a commitment to do the research on outstanding questions. So My question for you, particularly Mr. Gillen and Mr. Perry, how much money has the industry committed to supporting additional independent research? I stress independent research. Is that independent research ongoing? Has any been completed? Where can consumers look for it? And we're talking about research on the biological effects of this new technology.
Thank you, Senator. I think, thank you for your focus on the issue. Safety is paramount, and as you alluded to, we rely on the expert agencies, we rely on the findings of the FDA and others as to the requirements to keep all of us safe. There are no industry-backed studies, to my knowledge right now. Happy to visit with you as to what opportunities you think there needs to be more studies, and we're always for more science. We also rely on what the scientists tell us.
So essentially, the answer to my question, how much money? Zero.
I can certainly follow up with you, Senator. To my knowledge, there's no active studies being backed by industry today.
Anybody else know of industry commitments to back research, fund it, support it, to ascertain scientifically the health effect?
Senator, I'm not aware either, but I do know that with small cells especially, you're going to have lower power levels. And of course, as from a carrier perspective, you want to be able to manage interference so that that interference is the lowest interference possible. So I would think that some of those studies or some of that information could be utilized in looking at the health consequences. But no, I'm not aware of any.
So there really is no research ongoing. We're kind of flying blind here, so far as health and safety is concerned.